Peace is more important, and not just peace, but the relationship, the revelation to the other person who thinks they have to be right. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Keith, and I am throwing down another podcast today. Boy, a few days ago, I did a memorial service. I was kind of the MC, the in charge person, and it went really well. For those of you that were at Jeff's memorial service, I've talked to him about him and to him several times on this podcast. Jeff Olds, good friend, loved the guy, still love him. He's with the Lord. I'm a little jealous, but he's not in pain anymore, and that's awesome. If you out there want the video we played at the memorial service or want the copies of the podcast that I did about him or the slideshow, we've combined them all together in one link. So reach out to me on this platform or another, and Instagram or Facebook Messenger, and I will get that to you. I just send you the link, and you can watch any of the 5 things that are on there, and you will be amazed and blessed by what you see there and hear there. That being said, I'm going to move on to something. One of the things that he taught me, and he was, I said 5 years, I think is closer to 4 years older than me, younger than me, and he called me dad. He called my wife mom. Because we were surrogate parents to him. We helped him out in certain ways and gave him advice on life, and yet he ended up doing a lot of the same things for us, which is a symbiotic relationship that we hope to have with our later adult children anyway, and it really was that way. So we're happy about all of those things, and most happy that he's safe and he's good and all is well. So I watched a video recently and thought, I'm going to share this on my podcast. And I do this a lot. I pull a video. You might think that I spend a lot of time on videos. I don't. It's maybe 15 or 20 minutes a day average. Some days not at all, and other days a little more because I have a little time. But my algorithm's working for me, and I end up with these really good videos that have life lessons in them and stuff. And there's an algorithm thing that sends a lot of them my way. So I'm happy about that. But this one I learned a lot about. It was a woman talking, and it was probably put together with AI. It kind of looked like it. And yet there's a lot of truth in it. So I'm going to share it. 75 years it took to learn these 10 things is roughly the title of it. And I'm 62. In 2 months, I'll be 63. And I've come to terms with most of these, though I haven't learned them all the way. And many of you listening to this are my age or younger. Some a few years older. That's fine. Of course, that's fine. And maybe you're further along on this, which is also great. I'll mention also subscribe to my channel, like things, all the things that help this channel out. I would appreciate it. 75 years it took to learn these things. This is a woman talking. But I am in process. Some of them I've learned fairly well, and some of them I'm just beginning to learn, but all of them resonated with me in some way or another. 1, I stopped correcting people, even when I know they're wrong. I haven't completely done that. But I need to continue that path to do that. The subscript to that is peace is more precious than being right. That I am learning more deeply. Right in a couple of situations in my life. Being right is so important. And I just am really, really beginning in my life in the last couple of years to give that up, because it just literally doesn't matter. Peace is more important, and not just peace, but the relationship, the revelation to the other person who thinks they have to be right. And I am that person also, but maybe less so. That it being revealed to them they don't have to be right is probably something that I need to let them experience or get to without my input. Maybe with some questions, but without my confrontive input would be the best way. Number 2, I give compliments far more freely than I used to. Unfortunately, I haven't been a super affirming person in my life with being in business. And I always had a focus and a goal. And I often drove the team rather than motivated the team, drove the team or dragged them, pushed them or dragged them to get things done because I had goals for that moment, that day, that job, and they often weren't up to speed on what those goals were, and I needed to include people more in that. But when it comes to strangers, I've learned to have more awareness, an increasing awareness, and so I'm in a process of what can I say to this person or about this thing that they would really appreciate. And I'm glad for that. I'm able to do that publicly for someone today, and I'm really glad I can because this is one of my goals in life. The person on the video said it costs nothing, but likely creates a positive frame for the person. It can change a whole person's day or person's whole day. Number 3, I stop bargaining over pennies with people that work harder than I do, and perhaps maybe I ever did. I've been a pretty hard worker. I've had 3 back surgeries, blown out my shoulders. I've been in construction, partly because I chose to have kids when I was 20, started having kids, and then had a whole bunch of them by the time I was in my 30s. So did I feel stuck at times in the industry I was in? Yeah, because I knew it and I knew how to make a living at it, though it was still difficult for another decade past that, and began getting better 30 years in, where it wasn't as seasonal. But I need to stop in some ways bargaining with people when they give a price on things. And I've learned that. I took it as a source of pride to negotiate with people in Mexico and other places. And I'm still willing to do that because there's a level of respect that comes from that interaction, especially in certain cultures. But if people give a price or offer a price, we need to consider the culture and consider the context before we just hammer people down in price. So number 4, and leave a generous tip. Always. You never know what someone's carrying. You never know. Like, you might get bad service and maybe the person's not good at the job, but that's being revealed anyway. I don't have to reveal that and I don't have to pound on them. But in the service industry where they rely on tips, I need to give a generous tip. And it's in my older years, I'm just more generous because the accumulation of 40 years working, um, I won't say money is easy, but it's easier to come by than it was based on wisdom and, building processes behind it and, being able to forecast what's coming. So it's better than it used to be. Thank goodness. Thank the Lord. Number 5, I stopped keeping my emotions locked inside. Man, that's me. I have always been fairly emotional. Well, easy to cry. Not always super emotional, although I heard someone say, and I need to take this assessment, but there's 3 types of, I believe it's communication. There's 3 motivations, places communication come from. And that is every person tends to lean harder towards one of these 3 spots, is a feeling person, like feel first, think first, or act first. Those 3 things are 3 things that have been built into them by God. And depending on which one is first for you determines a lot of how your communication, your conversations go. And knowing where other people come from is also very important. Which one of those the other person comes from? Well, if I'm a feel first person and another person is an act first person, it's good to know that about them so that I don't feel slighted or I don't feel uncomfortable or about their action when the action was, in my opinion, short-sighted. Didn't take into account the feeling of others, wasn't thought through, whatever. So that's an example of what I mean. Also in feelings, feeling is not weakness. It's honestly what makes us human. And we all have feelings. I know someone that I'm close to that I think they fancy themselves a thinker, but they're probably an act first person. But feeling first is possibly not what they are, although feelings are super important. Our conflicts, when we have them, rotate around feelings almost every time. And so they are important to that person, and we are human. So we do feel things. Number 6, stop chasing people who didn't want to stay, who didn't want to be part of my life, my business, my whatever. And some of that's seasonal in our lives. There's a season for people, and there's a context and timing sometimes, and then people just time out. And it's not like we've rejected them or they've rejected us. It's just the way it happens sometimes. Our station in life often creates connection that one day fades, and it's not always wrong. It's true freedom to let people go. It really is. And to not expect things of them. I've had to do this with a sibling family member, a couple of them actually, but one mainly, that I just don't need to have expectations. It doesn't help any of us because they've always been this way. And though I see that as a problem, that's the way they've always been. And is it a problem? No, it actually isn't. It isn't a problem unless I make it a problem. And so I need to kind of get over it. So that's been a really good process for me to understand that that's true freedom, to not worry about having relationships with every single person. One thing I will say in regards to that is when a kid rejects you or hurts you or wants out of your life, or that's a lot of that parent shaming these days. When a kid does that, or someone does that in their life, maybe it's a divorce, maybe it's whatever it is. I was talking to someone, distant family member recently. We talk sometimes, and I was talking to them and was reiterating some of the things that are going on in my life, and he mentioned something that has been a long-term thing in his, and it had to do with the kids, both cases. And I said, man, there ain't no pain like kid pain. And he said, man, I can relate with that term. So we have to deal with our feelings, but in that case, and we have to live in the feelings. It makes us human, but that is a crazy dichotomy that the kids create things in us that it's like, oh, it's just like being punched in the gut sometimes every day. Every time we think about it, every time we pray about it, it's like it surfaces the feelings and the emotions about it. But it's a dichotomy that we have to re-forgive and reassess that God has things in control and that his plan is going to be carried out because his plan is perfect and best. And our plan is maybe good at best, but his plan is best. So we have to let people go, including to some degree, the people that we love the most, the people that we've done the most for. And we can't get in the comparison game. Ugh, it's terrible. No pain like kid pain. Number 7, I stopped competing with people who weren't running the same race as me. Andy Andrews talks about this in one of his books. I think it's called The Bottom of the Pool. And he talks about in business competing in a way that other people don't compete. Like you just rise above somehow and compete in a different manner. And instead of being stuck in marketing and sales tactics and in the same in the same way that they are, you need to actually rise above and do things. And been stymied on that, trying to figure out what the difference is for me. And in every area of my life, I need to stop competing with people when they don't know. People in relationships, my friends, there's no competition there. And if my mind goes there or my heart goes there or my feelings go there, then I need to just stop and reassess. Like, what am I doing? No. And keeping up with the Joneses about having a bet this or that or a better thing or a car or a house. Stop, because it doesn't matter. They're probably not competing. They've got their own list of issues and problems. So let it be. Number 8. This is a good one. I know someone that needs this, and I probably need it too. It's I keep my aches and pains to myself unless somebody asks. About those Now, if somebody says, well, how are you today? Then it's not like be a liar, but the aches and pains is not part of the answer. You can be honest, say, yeah, don't feel great today, but you know what? It's a good day, no matter what. A verse I've been writing down multiple times a week in a morning routine that I do. It's not every morning because I have some early meetings and such. Is this is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. And that I will has been the hard part. It's about an act of will and a decision that I have to make, and I get the privilege to make it. So when someone asks about how I am, if they ask about how I am physically, then I can tell them. But otherwise, leave it be. Nobody needs a list of my complaints because they're carrying their own. And if they've blessed me with not sharing theirs, then I need to bless them without sharing mine. So I think that's good advice. 9, stop waiting to be happy. And I always, because of the Beatitudes in Matthew 5, blessed is and there's a whole list, and there's a result if you are that thing. Blessed can be translated happy. Happy is the man that does these things. Happy is he that. And I translate that most of the time to blessed. So stop waiting to be happy. Stop waiting to be blessed. I am blessed. I'm blessed by God. I'm blessed with what I have and who I have. And I need to be grateful for those things. And a lot of these other things in this list that I'm learning will kind of right size themselves. And that is really important to remember. Another subscript on that is happiness is not something that arrives. It's something you choose literally throughout every day. In the morning, you choose it. You might have to choose it again later because circumstances are not great. You get bad news, or you have someone come in after you, or you get a bill you don't expect, or whatever the case be. Happiness is a choice. And in particular, for me and many of you out there, happiness is a choice because God gives us blessing and he's in control. This doesn't come in your life as a surprise to him. So don't think it did, because it didn't. That being said, choose to be happy. Choose to be happy. Choose to be grateful. Choose to be upbeat. Choose to be a blessing to others. And then you will be, in essence, a blessing to yourself. Okay, the last one, which I have struggled with, but I've put a subscript in it myself. I started loving myself the way I'd been loving others. And I struggle with that because, like, I'm not always lovely. I'm kind of an ornery person at times. And so there's parts of me that aren't very lovely, and loving. And so what I wrote is I started loving myself the way I've been loving others for decades, and found out that I wasn't really loving them as God made them, or, without judgment. He made me a certain way that in many ways it's going to grate against others. And I need to be more additionally gracious because I'm a certain way. And it's not making an excuse for my sinful behavior or obnoxious behavior. It's making an excuse for, if I don't click with every person, that's okay. But because they don't click with me, I shouldn't judge them for that. Especially if they don't agree with me, I shouldn't judge them with that. They have a mind and they think with their mind, and they have the culture they've come from and the family they've come from that's given them many of the things they think and are. And I need to let that be. So I'll reiterate that one. I started loving myself the way I've been loving others for decades. And as I do that, as I work on that, I found out that I really wasn't loving them. Therefore, I couldn't really love myself. My perspective on them was judgmental, and I was being gracious when they didn't even need my grace. They didn't earn it. They didn't need it. They weren't being evil. But I think, oh, well, I'm just going to accept them the way they are. Whatever. That's my own preconceived notions about what's going on there. And I need to let that go. I need to love people the way God loves them, which is with full acceptance, not of their sin, but of them as people, as created by him in a general sense. And then in a more specific sense, that they all are loved by God. Therefore, I should love them and act as if I do, because he does. He gives them breath. He gives them heartbeats. He gave them a body that's amazing. And whether or not they treat it well or not, that's not my choice. That's theirs. Now, do I have to sacrifice my whole income and to love people? Not necessarily. A gal that was, well, I would say fairly obviously on drugs, but with less judgment, I would say, well, she at very least was struggling in her life, was sitting out in front of a dollar store. I walked past her to walk in and pick up some things. And she said, "Hey, can I have some food?" And my response was, "Well, I don't have any." And then I realized as I walk in the dollar store that they have food in the dollar store. Oh, okay. Well, I can do something for her. I don't feel obligated, but as an act of kindness, a specific question was asked of me that I can respond to and do. So I did it. I bought her a little can of peanuts, and along with the other things I bought, and I handed them to her, and she actually said thank you, and so that's good. I don't know what's going on in her life. She did not look in a great position. She was sitting and seemed very worn out. And so it's like, well, I'll get her something with some protein. How about that? And so that's what I did, and did my best not to cast judgment upon her. Still, I noticed things that didn't look great, but casting judgment is a different thing than observing. And those observations lead us down a certain path because we've seen things before. But if we're compelled, which in that case I was, to do something for them, then do it. And that's what I did. So let me read these again real quick. It took 75 years to learn these things. I'm only 60, almost 63. So, hey, guess what? I'm still learning, and I'm hopefully by 75, I will know most of them. I stopped correcting people when I knew they were wrong. Number 2, I give compliments freely now. Number 3, I stop bargaining over pennies with people that are perhaps working harder than me, or maybe ever. Number 4, I leave a generous tip always. Number 5, I stop keeping my emotions locked in a drawer. 6, I stopped chasing people who didn't want to stay. Number 7, I stopped competing with people who didn't know they were running the same race as me. Number 8, I keep my aches and pains to myself unless someone asks. Number 9, I stopped waiting to be happy. 10, I started loving myself the way I'd been loving others, but I had to adjust that. There you go. There's the 10 things. And I hope it's been helpful. I don't do this just to fill air, but I do this because things strike me and I'm in a process. And it's like, again, my therapy time. The title of the podcast is Greatness from Small Beginnings. And I've got so many small beginnings in my life still. I'm still beginning small and growing in so many areas, but thank God I'm growing, and grow with me. That's what I want to do with you. So here's something that I always like to share. My buddy Zig Ziglar, that one day in heaven I'll meet, he said this, one of his quotes about you. You were designed for accomplishment, engineered for success, and endowed with the seeds of greatness. You were designed for accomplishment, engineered for success, and endowed with the seeds of greatness. Now, go be great.